The statistic is 1 in 3 women are experiencing abuse and domestic violence. 1 in 4 men. I am Christine Malik, and I am a toxic relationship and abuse prevention specialist, a speaker, a podcast guest, not the guru, and a nonprofit founder. I cut my wrists. 16 years old. 16 years old. And I'm cutting my wrists. I got 9 stitches up here from my head getting slammed against a concrete countertop.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the One Moment Podcast. You have myself, Kevin. You have Mr. Reubin Burney, and we have a very special guest today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. I don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. I am Christine Malik, and I am a toxic relationship and abuse prevention specialist, a speaker, a podcast guest, not the guru, and a nonprofit founder. That's pretty much what a couple of the things that I do. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for agreeing to come on, Reubin.
I'm Reubin Burney. I'm a co-founder of this podcast. I'm a certified alcohol and drug abuse counselor. I've been in the field about 25 plus years. I also do other things for provide DWI assessments and treatment in the state of North Carolina and what have you. But overall, I'm excited about being a part of this podcast. I said we're learning and growing, and I'm growing with this learning experience, to communicate better, and also just to get to know the guests, absorb knowledge from other people. That's what I'm most excited about being in this podcast.
Hey, everybody. Trevor Zylstra here, former correctional officer in the state of New Mexico, not with the state, but in New Mexico, and former correctional officer of the state of Colorado. I'm here to share my insights in a very impactful way, and I'm glad that we have this guest, Miss Christine, today, because it's another custom episode, and I love it. Thanks for being our guest. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. And no, I do appreciate it, Miss Christine. And thank you, Mr. Trev. Thank you, Mr. Reubin. We're going to be talking about very sensitive subjects throughout this episode. So what I would like to say is, before we get started, listen, if you're triggered at all by watching this, do know that there's help out there. Okay. I think the most important one is going to be the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline. That number is going to be 988. All right. You also have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is going to be 1-800-799-7233. All right. You also have SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The phone number for the national helpline is 1-800-662-4357. All right. And the other number is the National Sexual Abuse Hotline, AINN, which is Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. Please reach out to them if you need assistance. That number that you can reach out to is 1-800-656-HOPE, spelled HOP as in Papa, E as in Echo. Again, that is the RAINN, RAINN, National Sexual Assault Hotline. 24/7 help for all of these phone numbers, and the number for RAINN is 1-800-656-HOPE, HOPE. All right. Now, with that being said, thank you, Miss Christine, for again for agreeing to come on. Thank you, Reubin, and thank you, Trev, for being a part of this amazing team. I can't do it without y'all, but y'all can do it without me. Every one of you can. So we were talking yesterday, and you mentioned, I want to start off light, okay, and then move forward into the heavy stuff. You mentioned some good stuff about nonprofits and what you were doing, and you also mentioned that briefly in your introduction. And I know that's a part of SASSI, okay, from yesterday's conversation. Can you, just for the public's awareness, right? What is SASSI? What is your nonprofit? And what is y'all's mission?
Okay, so SASSI, let's start with that one. SASSI is an acronym that stands for Women of Abuse. It stands for Strong, Assertive, Smart, Sexy, and Independent. That term came about many, many years ago when I was a Girl Scout leader for my daughter. And as I progressed through life, and she's now in her 30s, and this was when she was 8, 9 years old. As I progressed through life, it became something that I knew I needed to continue with and to be able to use in my coaching. In that journey, I have just started within the last year also coaching men of abuse. And their acronym is still SASSI, but it stands for Sincere, Ambitious, Supportive, Stylish, and Inclusive. Because as women, that's what we look for in men. That's what we want. And that's what they want. So that's what SASSI is. It actually started many years ago, but it has become kind of, I hate to say it because I don't look at it like that, but it has become my brand, my trademark. That's just who I am. I believe we are all that, especially women, that in their very soul, we are strong, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent. With what we've had to go through in enduring abuse and domestic violence, we lost all that. So I help through my coaching and my speaking and my writing and everything that I do to help that woman and that man now find it again and bring that back out. So that's SASSI. The nonprofit is called SASSI Village Foundation. And that is where it's a building in your town, and they're being built. And it's going to take a long time. It's not easy, but it's a building, a fully inclusive building that woman or man can come into and know when those doors close behind them that they are safe. They no longer have to choose between going back to the abuser or living in a vehicle. There's healing, there's coaching, there's counseling, there's childcare. I call it shelters on steroids because it is so much more than just your basic shelter out there. And that's pretty much that. The mission is that no woman goes through what I went through. That no woman has to deal with that choice of being either homeless or going back to the abuser. That they have that safe place to heal, to grow, to find their SASSI again. That's it in a nutshell.
Wow. Nah, and I'm glad that you bring that up because there's a lot of, like you said, shelters out there, right? There's resources and shelters out there, but they're limited, right? They're limited with maybe age of the child, and then you have a lot of them are geared only for women, right? Versus they're not geared for men, right? And men, for the most part, might have to go to a homeless shelter, right? Which isn't ideal for somebody who's fleeing domestic violence, right? And so I actually love your idea. There's a company who's actually starting out. I think it's going to be end of this year. They're starting something like that, similar to you in Greensboro. Not but the age cutoff for children is I think 12. Right.
So now you're forcing that woman. So now you're forcing that woman to choose between going in a shelter or staying with her child or keeping that child with the abuser. That is not a life to live. Exactly.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
So that's why, like I said, everything that could be accountable for is, or that woman encounters is now taken into account with doing the SASSI Village. Okay. From being totally self-sustained.
Talk about a lot of times when individuals in that situation probably have to go to a shelter, uh, go to a facility outside of their home. Is some might be the domestic violence. Is speaking on that, like talking about that. I like to hear more about that aspect of it, like sharing about domestic violence. What are some of the signs? Because I know when I worked years ago, started as a counselor. A lot of times when a man came into treatment and they had a domestic violence court case, we would put them in anger management, and we realized anger. It's not about anger management because, for example, uh, if you ask that person on the job, they they're able to manage their anger in situations, but it's about power and control. But at home, they know in a situation they have control over that individual, whether it's a woman or a man. So we realize it's not about putting a person or the person is in domestic violence because they're angry. It's about anger. It's far beyond. It's power and control. So sharing about that, about the domestic violence aspect of it.
Okay, and thank you, Reubin. I appreciate that. God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, domestic violence takes on so many different forms. Abuse takes on so many different forms. I mean, if you Googled how many forms of domestic violence, they're up to like 18. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, abuse is abuse. Domestic violence is domestic violence, whether it be, and I've always said that it's narrowed down to your basic 5. You've got your physical, verbal, psychological, sexual, and your verbal, physical, mental. And I think
is it spiritual?
That's another form. Financial is another form.
Mental?
Online. Yes, mental. Yes. So, now there's online abuse. Okay. That's stalking and everything else. There is technological abuse. That's what they're classifying it as. There's abuse for same-sex couples. Okay. That happens within that relationship. There's also abuse. I mean, the bottom line is understand that what abuse is, okay? Not the type, not the category that it fits into, okay?
Yes.
Quit giving it a fucking name and just call it what it is. It's abuse, plain and simple, okay? When it happens consistently over time, consistently on a daily basis, consistently on a weekly, not just a one and done and it's over, okay? When it happens consistently to whether it be a male or a female, it is now classified as abuse or domestic violence. That's it. There's that's as plain as you can get if it is happening. So to answer your question, Reubin, one of the other things is that I've always equated it to, so picture a bell, okay? Okay, the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, okay? Picture a bell. When it starts, you're at the bottom of the bell, okay? The relationship is great. It's fine. It's hunky-dory. That mask that abuser has is full force. He wants, Reubin, you mentioned it. And I'm going to just reference for argument's sake, because the statistics state that a man will abuse a woman more than a woman will abuse a man, okay? Right now, and let's address that, okay? Right now, the statistic is 1 in 3 women are experiencing abuse and domestic violence. 1 in 4 men. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Do you want to know what the statistics were before COVID? 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men. Pre-COVID. And that language actually stated 1 in 4 women will experience abuse and domestic violence. And the same with men. The statistic is now 1 in 3 women are experiencing. That's a huge shift.
It is.
Yes. So let's go back to the bell. Go ahead. Go ahead, Reubin.
And during COVID, I know even clients or patients of mine that were experiencing that even during COVID, it increased, or what you're saying, because people were at home in close proximity and all those other factors came into play. Yes.
More alcohol use, we got stuck inside. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think COVID, apologies here, but both of y'all mentioned very critical pieces, right? Before COVID, I could see your stats, right? The prior to COVID, right? During the middle of COVID, I have seen people you would never think, you would never, ever think, right? That boom, the reports are just rolling in left and right, left and right. And now working on an inpatient unit, and I'm not going to disclose where I'm at, just because I don't want any. I want to respect my employer and my colleagues. But I see the devastation of it across the board, male, female, right, transgender, LGBTQ, doesn't matter the population, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the race. I see the devastation. And so before COVID, it was like every so often, right? But since COVID, it's skyrocketed. I mean, this is like now is almost every other woman that or every, if it's female or transgender, right? A lot of transgenders experience it.
Oh, yeah.
Those humans.
Imagine a day where fatigue doesn't stand a chance, where clarity perks up your focus as the clock ticks on. Discover W Energy, the drink that transforms ordinary moments into opportunities. With no sugar and flavors that feel like gourmet art, each sip stirs your senses, readying you for greatness. W Energy is a focus energy drink that contains no sugar and is available in a variety of unique flavors. Their coffee fruit cherry extract is the star of the show. This ingredient is what makes W unique and helps to provide smooth and effective focus and energy, making it perfect for anyone who needs to conquer a task. W flavors are created with one goal in mind, to taste unlike any other beverage. We combine bold and unique flavor combinations to craft an experience for your tongue with each sip. W achieves its smooth, effective focus with a high-end tasting experience while using no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial color or dyes. Every product they create follows the same philosophy. Be effective, be clean, and taste as good as nature will allow. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to enjoy 10% off their products. And most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast. They are helping to raise awareness of mental health, substance use, suicide, and much more around the world, seeking to make a global impact, reducing stigmas and changing lives one moment at a time. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast, follow us on our social media channels for more information, and to stay up to date with our episodes.
And it's sad. It's sad.
It's sickening. It is absolutely sickening as a human race that we are doing this to other humans. And Trevor, you are correct. It is absolutely sickening what we are doing. That we are in the year 2025 and this shit still happens.
Right. So here's a question. What if you have two sassies together and one of the sassies doesn't know that they have issues that they've never dealt with and they're dominant?
Well, they're not a sassy.
They're right. Well, they may not have ever been cognizant of the reasoning to develop them into the dominant person that they are. And from my experience personally, that is exactly what drove me, because they developed that dominant personality, but didn't recognize how dominant they actually were to their partner. And anyways, that's cognitivity or cognitive recognition of that manifested in me when you were describing kind of some of the things that people are going through. So I guess is it really possible to have these two dominant individuals together? One of them is the submissive, the submissive, and nothing they ever do, none of their effort comes through to becoming recognized or validated. And that might drive them to a negative behavior that has gotten that person into a domestic violence thing, because they they destroyed an electronic device, not to hurt anyone or prevent them from doing anything, but just to prevent them from putting attention to the device instead of the person. So when I said that those damn humans, yes, it's a human connection problem, and people need to respect each other and be aware of boundaries. Or sometimes people don't even know the issues that they have to look at within themselves, and I didn't either until my personal situation. But I'm I'm glad that you're here with us today in this conversation.
Thank you, Trevor. And I could tell just by what you're saying that there's two things I want to touch on. So one, you are still healing and you are not completely healed, okay, from whatever your past was that brought you into this, okay? And we can get into that in a separate coaching. But I can also tell you it takes two to tango, okay? So not only are you not healed, okay, but neither is that person that you're referring to. There is something within that person that is not healed. And this is where I'm going to take offense to, because I'm sorry, don't take this the wrong way, but if you are sassy, you are not mean, you are not abusive, you have learned. So the second thing that I want to touch on, okay, is that there are 3 stages of abuse, whether it's male or female. There's 3 stages of abuse. Okay. 1 is you are dead in it. You are in that abusive situation, whether it's at home, work, family, mother, father, spouse, it doesn't matter. Stage 1, you are in it. You are experiencing domestic violence and abuse wherever it happens firsthand. Okay. Second stage is you actually get out of the abuse and you go, okay, now what? Where do I go from here? What do I do? How do I heal? I can't heal that person, but how do I heal me? Okay. That's where most of my clients come from, that stage 2. Okay. Cause they're going, okay. And I've seen, Trevor, just so that you know, I've seen women that have gone years in stage 2. Okay. And think they are completely healed. So they get into another relationship and go, oh shit, here I am. I'm back in the same shit again. Because they didn't completely heal. Right. Because they didn't completely heal whatever was going on inside. Now, I can't heal somebody else. I can only heal myself. Okay. Right. Stage 3, and this is where I take offense to being called sassy the wrong way. Okay. Stage 3 is you become, when you go through my coaching program, you become unfuckwithable, plain and simple. Okay. You mentioned unfuckwithable. Okay. Yes. So here's so thank you. So when you get to that stage, and here's the other thing that you mentioned, Trevor. Okay. And I think you did too as well, Kevin. So you said the word boundaries. Okay. We can set boundaries all day long. Okay. I can tell you guys, oh, I'm the sassy coach. We don't cuss. That's just. But if I don't hold you guys accountable for those boundaries, what good is that boundary? I could say I set boundaries in my relationship that if a man comes into my life that I would like to date or go out with, there's going to be that conversation where I set those boundaries and go, sorry, that's not going to fly. We can say we set boundaries, but we have to keep them. We have to keep them in check. We have to keep ourselves accountable to them. You cannot go, well, he's really cute and, he talked really bad to the waitress the first date and he was really rude to the bartender the second date. My gut is telling me, now this is all subconsciously, okay? My gut is telling me this is a red flag and I should not date this guy, but he's really cute and, he treats me well. Bullshit. Hold yourself accountable to those boundaries. That is one of the biggest ways that we can stop abuse and domestic violence is one, Reubin, you asked in the beginning, what are the signs? Your body knows. Whether you're male or female, your body knows when you are in a fight or flight situation, plus whatever other, there's 7 of them, Reubin? Okay. whatever state that you're in, your body knows, and it is telling you, listen to it. If you are at a date and your body is saying, I don't really like this, get up, walk away. Hey, here's $20 for dinner. I don't need you to pay for anything. Here's $20. I'm out of here. You got to listen to your own body. You got to listen to what your body's telling you. Okay. And work on, okay, get back to your house, your apartment, whatever, go, all right, so what happened? Let me analyze what is going on in this relationship. Am I not healed? Am I healed? Do I still need some more coaching, counseling, something? If I stayed 10 minutes longer than I should have, or I stayed throughout the whole date and I knew this was a bad idea, or I invited him back to my place and now the MF, raped me. Seriously, we have to listen to our bodies, men and women. We have to set, not only do we set that boundary, but we have to honor that boundary. Boundaries are great, unless you're going, okay, I always picture, Bugs Bunny in his cartoons where he draws a line in the sand and then gets it erased. Okay. Well, how about this line? No, how about this line? If you're constantly crossing out the line, there's no boundary, right?
So especially if you're trying to establish a relationship or have a relationship where you completely, both of you drop all your boundaries and just disregard it and everything's wide open, where in the sense of just trying to have that sense of love. And so love is a very peculiar thing, because what if you're that desperate to have a sense of love in your life and you've searched all these places and things, you're willing to do anything to go and get that. And
Trevor, I gotta ask. Are you searching for love in all the wrong places? Because the first place it's got to start is here. If you have no self-love for yourself, why? Right. I'm not gonna find it in any of you guys. If I don't
that's
have
why self-care. That's why self-care is the most and vital thing. And yeah, I totally get it.
Sometimes I see it over and over again. Whereas even with clients of mine who, whether it's a man or woman in a relationship, they ask, why do I get out of that relationship and then I get back into a similar one and get back into that pattern? If I'm with a woman who's very abusive and controlling, and then I have to ask myself, what about me that's attracting to me to that? Because you said it takes two to tango, so I have to not to fix her, but I gotta fix me,
Exactly. Find out. You got to get with a coach, or somebody that can say, okay, a lot of your therapists out there will say, oh, no, we don't go back to the past. Let's go in the future. But for a person that is consistently in an abusive relationship, they have to figure out why. They have to go back to the past. They have to see, where did that come from? Okay. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way. I was in my early 30s. I went to go see a therapist for hypnosis to quit smoking. Okay. Well, she was not trained well enough. She took me all the way back till I was like 3, 4, 5 years old. Guess what I discovered in my 30s till I was 4 or 5 years old? That I was molested by a family member till I was 4 or 5. And all of a sudden this shit clicked and I went, oh my God, I now for 30 some years, I have equated sex with love. Every relationship that I have ever had has been an abusive one, because that's what I was always looking for. Because for me, love meant being abusive, being abused. And until I discovered that and could heal that, I couldn't move forward.
Sure.
And even then, finding that out in my 30s, I didn't listen
if there's
to
addiction,
it.
Sure.
Right.
If there's addiction in the family, and they don't, a lot of times they don't have those role models. How am I supposed to know how to have a loving relationship when there's no love in the home? I don't know how to trust my feelings. So therefore, I guess at what's appropriate. I don't know healthy boundaries because I don't know boundaries. I don't know all these things. So that's confusing in itself. I see oftentimes with patience of
Okay.
mind. Learn
So
to be patient.
So I gotta say, ignorance is not bliss. Okay, there's no reason in
It
this
is
day and
definitely
age.
not.
There's no reason in this day and age when we have Google that we can't figure out and find out. We can't go around anymore saying, "Well, I didn't know." That's bullshit.
Yes.
Okay, we have to be accountable for ourselves and go,
Mm-hmm.
how do we be? Trevor, how do we be that better race? We have to look at ourselves and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm done blaming my parents for all the shit that happened that's not going to solve the problem. That's not going to fix who I am.
Yes.
But what if they were dysfunctional as well? And you said something about your childhood, because my earliest memory is police, dad smashing glass up against the wall, the police coming in and being like the place to get rescued from. So for me to always want to abstain away from those behaviors that I saw, and I saw it until he finally passed away. He never really dealt with his alcoholism very intensely enough to where it helped him learn the kind of behaviors that he needed to. And he had his trauma from when his mom died when he was 12. So in my genealogical sense and my history, I never thought that I would be like that or ever want to be, even to the point where I got to a place to help others learn how to do it. I still went through it, and during to my being my coping mechanism was using alcohol, and that's where I made my biggest mistake.
And how far did that get you? I mean, seriously, I was the same way.
Right to it.
I'm clean and sober almost 9 years this year. Okay.
Outstanding, one day at a time.
Exactly. You want to talk alcoholism? Okay, because when we go through the abuse, okay, hey, Kevin, I really hope you bring up being shot in the head, okay? Because when it got that bad, okay, that bad, what did I turn to? The only thing I knew was alcohol. I was drinking 24/7, and you want to talk the big jug of Captain Morgan Silver spiced rum? That was my drink, straight from the bottle. Fuck the glass anymore. Just give me the bottle. That's how bad it was.
Incomprehensible demoralization.
well, y'all. I've been sitting here listening, right, and there's a lot of stuff I'm thinking about that y'all have just been really, man. Reubin, Trevor, both of y'all are just everybody phenomenal job. And I want to kind of touch back on something, and then I want to, there's so much to really unpack and uncover. But y'all mentioned relationships, right? And I'm not a family therapist. When I took that course, I read about the first 3 chapters and threw the book away because it was dry. Wasn't for me. I'm not a family therapist. Don't proclaim to be a family therapist. Don't like working with families. That's just I'm more of a one-on-one person, right? Or a group therapy person, just not a family therapy person. And I say that humbly and respectfully, right? I say it humbly and completely respectfully. But when I do teach about relationships, I teach, there's 3 rules that I learned, right? So I always ask people, whose job is it to build it? Whose job is it to break it? And whose job is it to maintain it? And nobody ever gets that right. Nobody ever gets it right. And reality is our job to build it, is their job to break it, it's our job to maintain it. And so when I teach from that perspective, people get it, right? Light bulbs come on in the group. Everybody understands, everybody agrees, because they get the idea of, oh my God, right? You are so right. I've always never maintained my boundary. Right.
And that should be a collective and a collaborative human existential condition, correct? Is that what I'm hearing you say, Kevin?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I agree with that then, for sure.
Yeah. And so you started mentioning about the being shot in the head. And again, trigger here for anybody watching live and going to be watching the edited version. If you need help, there's resources out there. National Domestic Violence Hotline, National Suicide and Crisis Hotline, many resources. Okay, please utilize them. But I want to hear more about some of that too, like, because you've talked about the childhood sexual abuse and the love, how you had the two mixed up. You also spoke about, some of the domestic violence and gave, some of those, the cycle and some education on that. Tell me about some more of that, as far as being shot in the head. I want to know some of that, because a lot of people don't, the general public, they don't understand alcoholism, they don't understand domestic violence, they don't understand substance use, they don't understand suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, none of that, right? Like, we're talking about severe crises here, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to understand the ramifications of, add to the list, infinitum.
In the heart of the city, a vision was born, not just a piece of clothing, but a movement. Vital Apparel reflects not just the raw edge of the streets, but the spirit of innovation to bring about change in mental health worldwide. It's more than a style, it's a statement, a blend of comfort with an attitude made for those who refuse to be average. Embrace the culture, ignite your passion, and wear the revolution. Discover your new favorite piece today and be part of something larger than life. Visit our link now at vtlapparel.com to grab your next outfit. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to get 15% off your order. Why support us? The founders of Vital Apparel, Hung Dao and Alex Kozub, sought out to raise awareness, seeking to change the stigma around mental health. 5% of their profits are donated to Brain Research Foundation, furthering the research in mental health. Vital Apparel sponsors the One Moment podcast. We partnered with one another so that together we can make a global impact on mental health, substance use, and suicide, saving lives one moment at a time around the world. Help us break the stigma. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
All right. So that's where I started to bring in the bell. Okay. Because when you get into a relationship, that the bottom of the bell is the beginning of your relationship. It's hunky dory. It's beautiful. But he's got that mask on. Okay. And it's not like I woke up one day and had a gun pointed to my head. That is not what happened. There was, several years that I lived with this man who committed this, along with a whole bunch of other shit. It's a curve that goes up, and it goes little by little as time goes on. Now, because you fall in love with this person in my particular case also happens to be okay, and I'm going to clarify something here. He also happens to be a pathological narcissist, okay, or a narcissistic psychopath. Take your choice. Now, I am not trained, and let's get something clear. I am not trained to diagnose this. Only a licensed healthcare professional can diagnose psychopathy or narcissism. Okay, I want that perfectly clear, because that word narcissism gets thrown around way too much out there in social media. Okay, so back to the bell curve. So it wasn't until, like I said, it's not like I woke up one day and had a gun pointed to my head. Okay, it's that little bit over time that things start to shift in the house. Little by little, things started to happen. Okay, now not only is he a narcissist, okay, so he did all that trauma bonding and did all the love bombing and, bought the gifts. Okay, especially, I don't know if you guys can see, but I got 9 stitches up here from my head getting slammed against a concrete countertop. Okay.
Wow.
It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen, all at once, just like that. It started with, the slaps across the face. It started with, my hair was down to my ass. Okay. It was very long. It started with, constantly pulling my hair out in clumps. Okay. The physical violence escalated over time. It's, at one point he picked up a rubber mallet because in his brain, he thought, this was when we were married. So in his brain, he thought that I had lost or spent $500, when in reality, he actually spent it. Okay. And I had to go through and actually handwrite out every transaction for a whole month for him to see. That wasn't good enough and it wasn't fast enough. He picked up a rubber mallet and beat me so bad with it. He broke my wrist and cracked 3 of my ribs because I'm going like this to protect myself. Okay. I had bruises all over my body from a rubber mallet. Okay. Pulling my hair out in clumps. Like the next morning, I'd see serious clumps of hair on the floor. Okay. Pushing me back in my office chair and having his hands around my neck so tight that the next morning I had, the marks from the hands. Okay. Like, like this on my throat, bruises all over my body every time. But it doesn't I could tell you this in 30 seconds, but these aren't like it happened in one day. It was done over time. Now, throughout that time, you also get bonded into loving that person because that's the mask they wore. You would think, yes, you would think by talking to a woman like me today, you're probably thinking, and all your listeners are probably going, how the fuck did a woman like this let shit like that happen? I wasn't always this woman. I wasn't, as much as my kids would, would see that strong woman when it came to that sassy woman. I've always had sassy. I've always had that. But when it came to this man, something changed, something shifted, something allowed me to say, okay, maybe he just had a bad day. Maybe I'm not going to be really upset about the hole in the wall that he just punched or the way he kicked the dog. Just getting slapped across the face or waking up the next morning and finding bruises all over my body. Okay. Or bite marks. That was another one, bite marks. It's those little things that happen over time that escalate in that bell curve to where it finally came to a head and I was shot in the back of the head. Yes. It does not.
It's a
it
gradual.
does not. Exactly.
And seeing those red flags, I always saw a saying that if you go to a restaurant and that person you're with is nice to you but nasty to the waitress or waiter, that's a red flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what's that saying that we all see out there? Even a yellow flag turns into a red flag.
Yes.
They're either, it's either good or it's not.
There's a movie, I don't know if you saw it, and it happens in all races, but you ever saw the movie The Color Purple?
Yes.
And you saw the scene where Whoopi Goldberg played the role where for years she endured this abuse from this person. And even his father, the guy's father said, you let her sit and talk to her like that, you need to beat her down, teach her a lesson. She needs to stay in her place. And that was the attitudes that persisted for years in some cultures and what have you. I know I lived in a neighborhood back in the South in the 60s, and this guy used to beat his wife, and everybody was like, they would hear it and say, none of my business, like that, none of my business, I keep out of it. And I'm like, you hear this lady crying and moaning, and you're like, but, that was their business. It was like, stay out of it. Don't, the stigma attached to that. And even a woman who went through it was like, something's wrong with her,
That was how we dealt with it for, everything was just swept under the carpet. I'm a Gen Xer.
Sure.
I'm the same way. Everything got swept under the carpet, no matter what it was. That generation and the generation before ours, we just hid everything. We didn't talk about it. That's not today anymore. We do talk about it. We do. Mm-hmm. But what I strive for with guys like you, okay, is to get the correct learning and teaching out there. Okay. The fact that we use the word narcissism and just throw it around like that is wrong. We got to stop, because we as just laymen out there and basic humans are not skilled, and we are not healthcare professionals and trained in diagnosing narcissism.
No,
we just can't. No. We're not. Now, I know you're going to have listeners and viewers, okay, that are going, yeah, but I lived with it. Well, hell yeah, I did too. I get it. Mm-hmm. But I really lived with it. To see, well, he always said this and always said that. Well, you know what, bitch, you should have got out of that relationship a lot sooner. If you knew that was happening, and that is one of Reubin. We talked about this yesterday. Okay. It is not easy for a woman to get out of, because normally if there is narcissism, okay, and let's go back to the true definition of narcissism. If that type of interaction is happening between a husband and wife, then you should have taken steps to stop it. But if it's true narcissism in the way we understand it in today's terms, there's also other abuse that's accompanying narcissism. And let's not forget, narcissism is a form of abuse, plain and simple. Okay, there's other forms of abuse that are happening within that household. Now, Reubin, you and I talked about this yesterday, that, how many times, and I've heard it too, 1,000 times. Well, I don't understand why you didn't get out sooner. I don't understand why these women just don't leave. Where are they supposed to go, first of all?
Right.
How,
Yes.
there's so much shame and guilt and everything else that we feel, that we go through, to be able to go to our family, because, there's still, the stigmas are still there, Reubin. You know that.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Y'all know that it's still there for us to, to be able to say, I need help. Okay. That is, it's one of the things that I teach is those are the 3 hardest words to say in the English language for us when you put them together. I need help. How many of us are real easy to say, hey, I need help. I need help. No,
Boy, let me tell you
that we can't ask for help. That's bullshit. And especially when it comes to this type of abuse and domestic violence. I mean, we have to speak up. We have to get educated on what is truly happening in the house.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And so, look, there's so many things about domestic violence that, if people haven't been through it or work in the field of healthcare, and even a lot of people in healthcare will still say, why don't you leave?
True.
Like, come on,
Right?
stop, right? And it just frustrates me because,
yes,
when I meet with these people who have been through domestic violence, just, one of my first things I always try to do, I always emphasize is, first of all, they're a human being, first and foremost, regardless of, my job is to be empathetic, compassionate, offer resources, give psychoeducation. Outside of that, as you said earlier, people have a choice to make, and the choices that they make, they know, right? And I was even questioned today, well, do you think this thing is universal, or do you think it's more subjective? And I said, that's a great question. I said, my response to you is, I think it's subjective, because I can't tell you everything for every person is the same. This person makes the decisions to stay in this relationship because of whatever, and vice versa. This person says this person does this. Everything is subjective, right?
Because we do not know what that woman is going through behind closed doors. I am totally with you on that, Kevin. There is no way I could, as great as I am, okay, and as knowing as much as I do, until I can actually talk to that woman one-on-one, only she knows exactly what she's living in that situation. I do, no matter what I went through, only she knows what she went through. And to ask that question, well, why don't you just get out, is so immature, insensitive, that we have to stop asking that. Educate yourself before you ask that question. And yes, it is, Kevin, you are absolutely right, 100% right on it being subjective.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I want to emphasize too, because a lot of people don't know this, right? I know it, and because I've been there. I've worked with a lot of domestic violence people. I've helped people flee situations. And so it is absolutely, totally 100% normal as they are fleeing, right? To feel that guilt, to feel that shame, to feel that, oh my God, maybe I need to, do you think it's okay for me to call? Do you think it's okay for me to text, right? Those feelings come up over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
And it's not that they can't control these, right? These are natural emotions that show up. And this isn't just, well, maybe it shows up for this person, but not this person. No. Every single person I have helped to flee, right? is those same feelings, right? Absolutely show up every single time.
Yep.
And people don't understand that, right? And even a lot of people in healthcare, they don't realize it.
No,
right?
they don't. You're right.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you then, okay? Because you've spoken a lot about things, and then I'm gonna let Reubin or Trevor follow up after this. We spoke a lot yesterday, well, briefly yesterday on suicide. You said that you have multiple suicidal attempts. Again, trigger for anybody who's watching, who's going to be watching. How many did you have, and was it directly related to this domestic violence? Was it not related? Was it in the midst of, like, because I've seen kind of, working as a therapist, I see it's during, it's post, it's all of this stuff, right? Because of all these overwhelming emotions that people experience. So that's my question to you. And I don't want to get too clinical, right? But what ways have you tried, if you want to share that with the audience? Because I think people don't understand suicide, right?
No, you're right.
Suicide is something that is not really spoken about a lot. So kind of give us some of your experience there.
All right, so here's the scoop. So first time, it was at least a half a dozen that I can remember. First time when I was 16. Okay, I cut my wrists. 16 years old. 16 years old, and I'm cutting my wrists. Absolutely. With this particular, you guys, we haven't even touched on. I mean, we really only touched on this last marriage, okay, and how bad it was. But my whole life, okay, from the time I came into this world, has been I've been abducted and held captive 3 times. Okay. Oh yeah. Again, every relationship that I've been in up to this has been an extremely abusive one. Now, this last one happened to be the worst because it entailed every form of abuse possible. Okay, and probably then some. I have taken pills along with rum. That was my drug of choice. Both my drug of choice. Sleeping pills and rum. Okay. Discovered that was interesting. I had already written 3 letters to all 3 of my children. I knew because of this relationship that, I mean, talk about the guilt that you go through. Okay. My kids are better off without me. The only way I used to pray to a God that I didn't believe in and say, put me in the fucking ground or put me in a hospital, because it's the only way I'm getting out of this relationship. And when I felt that I was at my last end, okay, first it was pills and alcohol. I actually pulled the trigger on myself. I mean, right here, okay, and the freaking gun jammed. Do you think maybe, and of course being shot in the head, I survived a motorcycle accident that I shouldn't have. I died on the operating table twice, okay. There came a point where I said, okay, I'm meant to not die. I'm meant to be here on this earth. I'm being divinely guided by something, someone, again, a God at that point that I didn't believe in. So I accepted at one point back in 2018 when I was in the arms of God, lifted off my bed, had my spiritual awakening, had my, near-death experience, whatever you want to call it. And I said, okay, I accept my fate. This is where I'm being led. This is why I survived all this shit all these years. So that I can educate the public, so that I can train the public, so that I can coach the public, so that I can speak to the public, so that I can form this nonprofit and heal every other woman out there to not go through what I went through at least a half a dozen times, at least. And I can tell you now, I mean, I know now that it was for stupid shit, okay? Because I didn't have self-confidence, because I felt trapped. because I had no one to turn to. At 16 years old, when you have, parents that are only 18 years older than you, still children themselves, okay, young adults. My parents were 18 years old when they had me. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. Remember, we talked about this, with their generation and their parents' generation. I quit blaming my parents a long time ago and accepted my own fate in life, so to speak. Okay. I'm divinely guided and protected. And I'm here to teach. I don't know what, something that's going to come out is going to hit with somebody the right way. And they're going to go, you know what? I think I need to get help. Great. Reach out. Whether it's all those hotlines that you said, Kevin, or to a friend. Okay. I can't tell you, I told you guys that there's 3 stages. Okay. I can't tell you how many people I coach for free that are in stage 1. Go to your church, go to a support group, go to the police station, till you find somebody that can listen to you, keep going. There's somebody out there that's go to somebody at work that you trust. Maybe not human resources, maybe not your boss, but somebody that you can trust and say, I need help. Okay. When you say those 3 words, you will be the most empowered person you could possibly be in your life. Because there are people like us out there that are going to say, girl, I got you. Let's go. We're out here. You guys are out there. You're going to find somebody that's going to say, I got you. I got your back. Let's go. Let's have a conversation. One of the things that I used to say is, if you have to take a friend for a ride in your car and say, basically, we're not stopping. I see something going on here. There's something happening in your life. I want to help you. Let's go for a ride. Let's get some coffee. Okay. We're not getting out of here until you tell me what's going on and we find a solution to this problem, or at least to get it started in the right. Okay. You can't leave the relationship. Great. Do you have friends? Do you have family? I mean, there's so many things. Everybody's situation, as much as it's the same, Kevin, you hit on it. Okay. That's as much as it's different for every single person living in it. But we have to, go ahead.
Feeling lost or alone, struggling with unbearable trauma or addiction. Every day feels heavier than the day before. The weight of unaddressed emotions and problems can leave you paralyzed. On the One Moment podcast, we are aligned with the vision and mission of the Place to Heal. Founded in Sanford, North Carolina, the Place to Heal is a growing multi-specialty mental health and substance use practice dedicated to facilitating healing and personal development. Our team of compassionate clinicians are committed to providing evidence-based therapeutic interventions tailored to each individual's unique journey. We are passionate about empowering our clients to overcome challenges and achieve emotional wellness. The Place to Heal hosts and sponsors the One Moment podcast. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to be connected to the Place to Heal. Follow us on social media for more content.
People who I've talked to who survived suicide, they say that one person I know in particular, I worked with when I had the opportunity to work in a behavioral care unit, what they call a psychiatric unit, and got to know him and formed a therapeutic bond. And when they discharged him to the clinic where I worked. And this individual, it was in his 30s. On the outside, he looked like he had everything going for him, nice looking, all those things. And but he was in and out of it was like a cycle. He would be out of the hospital for like 4 or 5 months, and then he would end up in this behavioral care unit another month or so. And unfortunately, he eventually hung himself. And the note he wrote, his mother read it to me. He said his intention wasn't death, but his intention was to stop the pain. He didn't think beyond, oh, when I die, I'm going to be in the ground, or this and that. He thought about, I just want the pain to stop. And that's what a lot of people who I know who have survived that said, I'm not thinking people, because a person who doesn't understand it just says, why would you want to kill yourself? You're not thinking about death and everything. You think about death, I want to stop the pain. And that's what it comes into.
And that's what I did. I turned to drugs and alcohol because I couldn't take, not the physical pain that this man inflicted on me. Okay. It was that psychological pain that was a daily, all day long basis. Okay. From what he said, the way he looked, the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he parked the car. I mean, everything he did was just to get under my skin because he knew he could. And yes, without a doubt, that's why I drank. Okay. I drank so bad, you guys put me in the hospital. I had full-blown cirrhosis of the liver. When my doctor finally opened me up on my second surgery, when I died on the operating table twice, the only thing he said to me when I was in recovery, he said, Christine, if you drink again, you will die. He said, we removed your gallbladder, your appendix, part of your colon, part of your intestine, and your whole left fallopian tube. Your liver is in full-blown cirrhosis. You have got to stop drinking. And I went, that's a theory I really don't want to test. And I stopped drinking. Yeah. It was actually 2 days before, because I was so sick. I had so much infection raging through my body. Didn't realize that okay, let's be really honest here, okay? I knew how much drinking I was doing. I knew that all that drinking was affecting my body somehow. I chose not to accept that was happening. But we all know, okay, that you drink that much alcohol when you're drinking a half a gallon a day. Can you guys do the math on that, right?
Yes.
I'm drinking just myself a half a gallon a day. Now, top that with El Jimador every once in a while on the weekends, whatever else looked good in the bottle that he wanted to try. But a half a gallon a day. Yes, I knew exactly what I was doing. That was another form of suicide. I just wanted out and I didn't know where to turn. So what did I do? You're right, Reubin. We masked the pain. We turned to drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, food, you name it. Absolutely.
You mentioned a nonprofit. I find that oftentimes when I'm looking for referrals for a male or female, it's very, especially in this county I'm in North Carolina, it's very limited. So that's the challenge, is finding a place, because sometimes they feel like they have no choice but to go back to the abuser.
Exactly.
And put up with it. Oh, it's not so bad, and just finding resources. And I'm glad you talked about your nonprofit. You were in the infancy stages where
Yes.
You want to start. I think that if it's only one place, that's one place that person can go and get help and get the service, and not just put me in a shelter. You can stay here for 5 or 6 days, but then you have to leave.
Right?
Yeah.
How is that healing? How is it nurturing to that person, that woman going in there, or a man that has to go to a homeless shelter, okay? How is that nurturing? How is that healing to that individual? How do we, because the nonprofit, the final goal, okay, whether I'm alive for this or not, but my final goal and mission, is to eradicate abuse and domestic violence through education. Because this is the only way we break this cycle, is one, to talk about it, to get it out there, to let people know. I mean, here we are in the year 2025 and this shit is still happening. Okay. But if we can get stronger as women, and Reubin or Trevor, when he said it earlier, stronger in that sassy sense. Strong, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent. When we can get that sassy in us, then we can say, sorry, dude, not happening. When you grow up and when you get a set and when you can, learn to treat a woman like a woman's supposed to be treated. And the other thing, Reubin, that you mentioned earlier, I think it was you, Reubin, that said it. Do you know that there are cultures still all over the world that teach their boys when they're young to abuse women? That shit has got to stop. that's why, when I can get this really up and going and moving, not only will I be in the States, but those buildings will be across the world, especially in those countries where they teach. I mean, do I think it's going to be easy? Oh, hell no. Because it's a cultural thing that they think is fine. And it's not.
It's generational, yes.
Yeah, it's generation.
It's generational as well. Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, and that's why, we definitely support you. And whenever you do an open house, definitely we're going to be there doing a live podcast.
Yes.
Or if we can't be there in person, we're going to do a virtual one. What have you?
That would be
okay.
Awesome.
I've said this before, and I'm going to just reemphasize this. I remember when, we were all kind of having that imposter syndrome. Reubin, you remember this vividly. And we were, the night before we did our episode on suicide awareness, we're all, talking about, well, do we keep it going? Do we shut it down? We're kind of like, that imposter syndrome, right? And Reubin had said,
what is the problem? Define what to you. What's
imposter syndrome is when you're doing something but you don't feel like you're adding up to.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So for people like yourself, right? Love you, dude.
So let's put out the idea when you come about doing a podcast. I said to Kevin, I don't think I belong. He said, why? I say, I don't know. I just don't think I can do a podcast. I say, I don't know. I said, Kevin's licensed therapist. I'm a certified counselor. I went to school and all that, but I didn't go for the masters. And I'm like, and a lot of these people come on, they're psychiatrists and this and that. I says, but over time, I think, you know what? At 69, that I don't have to pretend to be an expert. I'm comfortable with my patients. They ask me something I don't know. I'll say, I don't know, but let's explore. Let's be proactive and find out together. Let's work this out. So I think even with the podcast, I say it's a learning experience. I don't feel I'm learning not to feel intimidated when a person comes on and they're a psychiatrist or they're this or that. I'm observant. I'm participating in life. So that's gradually changing that imposter syndrome. I think the older I get, I had it more so when I was younger. At 69, my attitudes have changed. I don't feel like, I have to impress somebody or whatever. I'm Reubin. That's it.
Right. And no, you're right. And so Reubin had questioned. He said,
sure.
He said, Kev, have you pulled the data? Have you pulled the analytics? I'm like, well, no, Reubin. Like, why would I? Why should I? Right. And that was kind of like my responses. So, long story short, we pulled the data, we pulled the analytics, and we got people from, 10, 15, at that time, 10, 15 different countries that was watching our stuff, right? And, so right then in that moment, we were like, dude, we have an opportunity to have, as you were saying, right, a global impact, right? Not just a clinical impact here in what we do. And it was during the episode for suicidal awareness that we learned that there were so many countries who continue to criminalize suicidal ideations, suicidal behaviors, suicidal attempts. And it's potentially culturally, right? It's potentially, part of their traditions generationally. Maybe they don't believe in mental health, right? I don't know. There's so many reasons why. And it's sad because it's 2025. Like, we're not living in 1945 anymore, dude. We're not. We're not living in Jim Crow days anymore. This isn't slavery, okay?
Yeah.
It's 2025. Get with the times, right? We have the LGBTQ population, okay? We got African American have rights now. Women have rights now, okay? You have all these different things. Times have changed. 1945, we didn't have Apple cell phones, right? Now we have Apple cell phones. Times have changed. So this is for anybody who's going to be watching this, and I hope my editing might do this, right? Or if it don't, I'm gonna do it, right? Get with the damn times, cuz anybody. If you beating your effing wife, or your effing boyfriend, your effing husband, whoever you, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't care what the race, I don't care what the gender, I don't care. Ideology aside, politics aside, everything, religion aside, right? You need help. Seek help, right? And if you're afraid to leave a domestic violence situation, if you're thinking about harming yourself, help is out there. Please seek help. Help is out there. Please seek it. You are a person. You're important. You are valued. You are honored. And that's the end of my rant right there.
You said that's help out there. That's true. I think that's true, but I still see like the stigma, like for I always get, I don't say LG, lesbian, gay, transgender, queer, whatever. I always say that uh, there's people. I see it oftentimes on social media. The comments made when a person comes out or something like this. So there's still stigma out there. I shared with Kevin. I remember it just it touched me somehow. I was living in New York, and I told Kevin, I looked the person's name up, I don't remember his name, but it wasn't. He said, "Oh, you revealed it." I said, "No, it wasn't a patient. This made national news. It was in a newspaper. I remember. It was a young man. He was going to college, and he came out. He was gay or bisexual, and his roommate filmed him having an episode of making love to another man, and his roommate filmed that, and and he played it, and this young man, you can Google it. There was in the 90s. He went to the George Washington Bridge. He jumped off and killed himself because he couldn't deal with that. And me and my wife was talking about that, and I said, "Wow, to go through that and stuff." And she said, "Well, Reubin, would you jump off a bridge?" I said, "Maybe at that age, 18 or 19 or 20, I said, but at this age or something like that, if I was having an affair for me, I'm just saying, I wouldn't, and it came out, I wouldn't jump off a bridge because I'm more aware, I'm a different person. Get what I'm saying? I think that it saddened me to hear that person did that. And I said it felt alone and to go through that, and nobody felt alone through that. I said, yeah, like I said, it might be embarrassing or something like that to see a video like that, but not to the point where I'm gonna jump off the bridge because I'm 69. I'm a different person. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Miss Christine.
Yes, sir.
You got 2 questions you got to answer. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready for it?
I'm always ready.
If
Give it your best shot, Kev.
Right. For anybody who watches this episode,
Yes.
what is one thing you want them to take away from it? And then you have to give a call to action.
I usually say you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone in any part, okay? Whether you're going through the abuse, the domestic violence, the suicide tendencies, you're not alone. There are so many of us out here that can help. But you have to say, you have to reach out. You've got to take that first step and say, I need help. I can't tell you, Kev, I could give you, a dozen different ways to help. And I've done it, okay, to help that woman in her particular situation get out. But I don't know till they ask for it, whether it's financial. I mean, you'd be surprised at different things that we could come up with. How am I supposed to get out? He controls the money. All right, ask a couple questions. That's what you do. Here it is. Here's the plan. It may take you a few years. Can you stick with it? Can you just stay with me for 5 years and we'll get you out? Maybe sooner, maybe longer. I don't know. But you got to take that first step and ask for help. And I guess my second call to action is, go to my website, SASSICoach.com. I mean, like, there's so much information on there. Book a call with me. They're always free. It's always free to talk to. I think my phone number's on there, my email. You can book a calendar link and we just talk and figure it out. You're not alone. You're not alone. And as much as you may seem like you're at your wit's end, you're not. Because we are here.
One day at a time and one person at a time.
That's it.
Thank you, Miss Christine.
Does anyone else have that one tool that makes building a website a breeze? In an era driven by digital change, WebHash is the indispensable tool that holds the key to effortless website creation. Create websites that endure, defy censorship, and bypass any single point of failure. As cutting-edge technology redefines reality, seize the power to build beyond limits. Join the Web3 revolution now and forge paths others can only dream of. Visit our site today and build your legacy. Building my own space on the web was always a grind until I hit up WebHash. Their no-code builder is my ace. It's swift and solid. It's like rocking a digital fortress that's immune to the typical shutdowns. Level up your web presence without stress. Ready to stake your claim in the digital realm? Dive into WebHash today, connect your Web3 wallet, and get started. They have multiple subscription plans, from a free version to a lifetime subscription. Check them out today at webhash.com. Most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast, helping to raise awareness to critical topics in the healthcare field. Our official website was built using the WebHash platform. Throughout the projects that the One Moment movement built on WebHash, they stood behind and supported it all the way. Sign up and start building your website today. Don't forget to visit onemoment.chain.box and subscribe to our social media channels.
Does anyone else have that one moment where everything feels too overwhelming to handle? Fortunately, there are therapeutic resources where you will learn the skills necessary to bring clarity and focus amidst chaos, making everything feel manageable again. At Mindfully Me Counseling, we guide you towards clarity and calm with personalized therapy. Embrace your self-care today. Visit mindfullymecounselingplc.com to learn more. We sponsor the One Moment podcast. They meet weekly to discuss critical topics related to mental health, raising awareness on various topics such as substance use, suicide, trauma, family, and more. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about the podcast and to be connected to additional resources. Subscribe to their social media channels for more information.